Morning, everybody. Jason, Hollis Farms. I got about 35-40 minutes for daylight. Hadn't been hunting in the morning. I don't know if I've been in the morning yet. Maybe once or twice. But anyway, I got a set of ground blind up down here in the bottom a couple of weeks ago. A lot of acorns in here. Just a good place for them to travel. So before we go to Mississippi to check on the loggers this morning, I thought I'd go down here and hunt for a couple of hours. It's cooled off just a little bit. Not freezing or nothing, but it's pretty cool. I think we're going to have a pretty steady breeze, so I think the wind's going to be right. We'll see if we can have any luck. Spend a little time in the woods this morning, see if we watch the sun come up. Alright, y'all, I know y'all can't barely see me, but we are locked and loaded. Still got a few minutes before daylight. Maybe we'll see something. Well, y'all, not the most eventful morning, but a pretty place. Saw that one doe came through right after the train. She messed around and got downwind of me. And then 2 squirrels. That's all I've seen. It is a pretty place in there, though. I figured they'd have moved better than they did, but they didn't. Well, they didn't hear anyway. I'm gonna go out a different way that I came in and kind of look around a little bit. Show y'all this winch in the daylight. Pretty good. End up going with the Badlands winch, 9,000. Had to do some moving around and situating. Rick don't like to make his bumper stick out so far where the winch is easy to put in. It's tight in there where everything's a little more compact. I think we turned out pretty good on that. Alright, y'all. Got feet rounded up now. wasn't just too exciting of a hunt this morning. Saw that one deer and a couple of squirrels. Boy, I really thought they'd have moved this morning, but they didn't. They had other plans, or either I was in the wrong place, and that could very well be it. But he's wound up, man. Anyway, good way to start the morning off. Didn't stay but a couple of hours, and I am headed down now to check on the loggers to see how they doing. So, it's gonna be a pretty day. It looks like it is bright. Started off cool, gonna warm up a little bit, but it's just about to get right. We are fixing to start pushing a little harder and trying to hammer on these things. And we're gonna have a good year though. We're gonna keep hustling at it. Alright, we made it down. We've been to go check on these two logging crews. Got one that's still not working today, still a little wet over. I think these right here are gonna be doing good though. Alright, so they're up here to this section where we got an interior road right through there that we don't want them to use. I thought they were going to set up right here first, but they called me yesterday and said they'd rather let that sit just a little bit longer, and we already got a old loading pad up here. We would, and there is a big loading pad on down that road, but I don't want them on this road this time of year, so we're going to make a new loading pad right there as soon as they get through thinning this section. I can hear them down here. They working and loading and getting after it now. Some of this is already a little thin, but a lot of this on the side of the road is not as thin as I want it, not getting the daylight to the ground. So we get her thinned out and get to run some fire through it. She's gonna be right. And boy, I remember, let me turn y'all around. I really like this camera because it's got a screen on both sides so I can make sure I'm pointing right. What I was saying, this section that they're on now comes back out here to the power line. I can remember the last time it got thinned. It's been a long time ago now, but I can remember we thinned it and burned it, and it was still smoldering. And turkey was gobbling right on the edge of it that morning, and sat on the power line and called him up. And when I shot him, it rolled him off on a stump, and it just smoldering its feathers. It was smoking. All you could smell was fire. We could just burn it. Them turkeys love that fresh burn. Get in there and get them deep fried bugs. Out of these is some pretty good sized trees in here. Right around it. And yeah, they got some pretty good sized trees out here. Must be hauling though, because they ain't got much of a pile yet. Right around here and we can see the cutter man. Haven't made it up here just yet. This stand right here has got basically 3 different age class trees in it. We're just gonna kind of prune it up, shape it up, and next go around will probably be a clear cut. Just want to get some. It's got some decent little briars out there, and but they're just shading back in. We got to get more daylight on the ground. Get some briars back going. It's a good little section right here. I hear him over there. He's over that way. I'll get over there and we'll see him. This thing falls off a little bottom right here, and it's a little more open over here. Not quite as much hardwood competitions came up, and boy, it is some good turkey right here. Good turkey hunting. I have one. I was back over, there's some short pines right through there, and that turkey was gobbling right on this ridge this spring. And I messed with him for a minute and called and went after another, and that sucker was sitting right where I was just a few minutes later. This is going to end up being pretty. It's pretty right now. I mean, this for pine trees, this is a beautiful little bottom. But we're going to prune on it and give it a little haircut and make it even better. The sun ain't too bright right here. We just come around from that way, and you can come over here and see how he's thinning it. Golly, that looks good. Talking about some daylight on the ground. We got to get a fire through that, knock all that hardwood stuff back, clean it up, let that come springtime, that old fresh green come back up. there will be a turkey smoking her down in there. Man, it's strong. Like I said before, I really do not like doing this during deer season. But we're just kind of jumping around. I don't think we're bothering the deer too bad because we're still getting a few pictures, and Brian and them getting some pictures kind of strategically placing them around to where I think we'll just kind of ease the deer around and keep on working. But it's just, we got a late start and it's dry now, and I know it's coming to an end before too long, but we're going to keep getting it while we can, and I just can see the future. Y'all keep watching and stay with us. I can just see the future. It's gonna get good. I can see all the way through to the, I know I can't zoom with this camera, but I can see the loader and all through that. Before they started, you couldn't see him. He's right up here cutting. Just a lot of little hardwood competition coming up through there. I'm hoping it hadn't got too big that a fire won't get it. If it does, we may have to do some spraying, but I'm hoping we can run a fire through it and go ahead and knock that back. I can barely see the cutter man in there, but I hear him. Hoping we can see him grab one of these trees. He's working his way through there. I'm going to explain a little bit of this thinning to y'all here in just a second. Alright, I'm going to explain this thinning to y'all in the short real quick. Normally, like a first thinning, like this patch of pines here, when they're about 15 years old, we do a first thinning, we'll thin them on an 80 basal, which that basal is the distance calculated between the trees and all. But on that first one, you don't want to thin them too tight. I mean, too thin, because you want them to start growing up and limb themselves. The tighter you got them, the more they'll limb themselves. And then the second go round, a lot of times we do a 60. The norm is probably 70 to 80 a lot of times that second. And but what happens is you don't get no daylight to the ground and you don't have any browse. So we've got quite a bit down here that we kind of get to jump around on. So like that back there, he's thinning it on a 50. A lot of these bigger trees that are really clear-cut size, that we don't want to clear-cut yet, we come through there like this time of year, give them a little haircut, thin them on back down to about a 50, and we'll clear-cut them in a few years. But I don't like these big patches of clear-cut, because you lose that whole spot for 2 or 3 years trying to get it prepared back for replanting and all that stuff, between the burning and the spraying and all, and then giving the tree 3 or 4 years to grow. You just ain't got nothing. So I'm gonna start splitting some of that, like that last little clear cut we did up there. It was just part of it, not all of it, because I don't want to lose my turkey roosting, I don't want to lose my nesting, and don't want to lose the deer bedding and all. So that's kind of what we're doing. But the lower the number on the basal, the further what it is, it's basically trees per acre. And the lower the number per acre, which in turn gives you more daylight on the ground and gives us more browse. So it's kind of a balance there. But and I got to really do some studying to make sure we do this right, and don't end up with too big a section clear cut and just kind of lose that whole area for several years. And you don't never want to lose your turkey rooster. And as long as you can fix a place for turkey, you're going to have deer. But anyway, just a little short explanation on the basal and the thinning. And what our guy does, our timber guy, he comes down here and he's got a gauge that he can look up through the trees, and he can take several plots, and he can tell that cutter man. And these cutter men down here is good. Once he gets them going and says yay or nay, he'll check it. And I hadn't even ever looked at one. I need to get one so we can play with it. It's a little cheap gauge. But once you kind of go through, I'm making sure ain't no log truck coming behind me. Once you kind of go through and he goes through there and it's hit, if we're cutting it on a 60 and he's cutting 58 to 62, and he kind of gets his rhythm down. We just let him go with it, and he'll be doing good. So, a little short on the thinning, how we do it. We got one loaded down up here on this thinning up here. Must have put a stick or two on there too much. He can check the scales and get them back out. Alright, over here behind the cutter man, let's see if we can see him cut a tree. Some big trees he's laying down. Easing his way through there. It's gonna look like he's gonna lay this one right on top of us. Tree right there too. Taller than they look. Alright, y'all, hadn't had just a ton going on today. Had a little bit of deer hunting this morning. Didn't see a whole lot, but it was fun. Checked on the loggers, they're doing really good. And I am just about to have to call it a day today. But anyway, appreciate y'all watching. Out of here.